Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. And thank you, ET, always joining me. Appreciate that. Today, I'm going to share with you some news. The first one is it's on the venturebeat.com. And the title is Why the Future of Metaverse Can Only Be Decentralized. Yeah, today I read a lot of interesting news, and it's all about Metaverse and all about, I studied some DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. A lot of interesting things happening right now. So the first one that in this article, it talks about, in the future, the DAO is called decentralized autonomous organization. Okay, let me make sure it's right. Anonymous organizations. Yeah, this will be the really important way of doing transactions in this, metaverse world. And there's another article that I forgot the name of. It's a Polygon Studio. The CEO said that in the future the metaverse has to be decentralized. If it is decentralized, then the way that we pay, the payment system needs to be, like more, I would say, it's not the way that we are doing in the world right now. Everything is centralized by banks and government, right? Now, if it is, everything is decentralized, then we have to have something that, kind of help us to, to do the transaction in this digital world. So as for DAO, the main concept is that whoever built something, right, when they sell, they always can get a little bit cut once the goods being transacted to other people. For example, if I create a painting, right, I use NFT, then I sell to buyer A, and I can get the majority of cut. But after after buyer A sell to other people, the creator still can get a small percentage of it. It seems like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I personally think this is a very interesting concept because before, you can pretty much buy off something, right? But DAO allows, the creator or encourage the creator to create more and more stuff, because the more you create, the more percentage of the goods you can get, even though it's a small cut, but it's still like a favor to the creator. So I think this is a very interesting concept. And yeah, and people really think that the decentralized the decentralized world will really helps people to, to live in this digital world. So any thoughts, comments on, like DAO's idea? I'm fascinated with this concept. Yeah.
Hi, this is ET. I remember back in the early 90s, I worked for the incubator at the Russian consulate, and they were doing online casinos, and you could buy digital chips and do betting. This is before, there was a whole shopping cart and commercial web enterprise. And this reminds me a lot of that. You still used a Visa card, you still had to have money. But then once you were gambling, because the ruble wasn't worth anything really, and Gorbachev is relocating to the US. And so he got very creative. And others, in China and India were doing the same thing. They actually had barges or a little Cayman Island somewhere where they had a bunch of servers and doing casinos. Okay. Yeah. So this kind of reminds me back to that. But I love the DAOs. I love the concept. I work in healthcare, so I want people to be creative and write software and games and things, to keep people healthy, prevent diabetes. I don't want them to spend $5,000 for a Gucci handbag and then have fees for their avatars. I'd rather they think about their health and the long-term goals, you know.
Yeah.
If you have play money like you would for a casino, yeah, go out there, try it, you know, play with it, but don't sell your car or you know, have to go bankrupt. You know, sometimes you get gamblers who go bankrupt, and sometimes they, you know, Guido comes, breaks their legs, you know. You don't want to go there. So just be wise with what you're doing. I am really surprised that big companies like Sotheby's, you know, the big art world, has gotten into this game with luxury brands, and Porsche, you know, cars, things like that. I think they're trying to do more of an exclusivity thing, but then sell it to the masses, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of see that perspective. And then I see a lot of these meta real estate, you know, they give you a deed, but I just feel like, to me, that's just games. That's just pretend.
Yeah.
If you can have a core value, like let's say a school, like you're building a digital school, and I want to resell, you know, I want to start my own classes, maybe in Spanish, you know, for young Latinos, then you should have the right to own your content.
Yeah.
Have NFTs for your voice, your graphics, your videos, and then me and, you know, maybe 20 of my students would just keep building off of what you do, you know. And the way we do that is we trace it through the blockchain, through the audit trails. When I worked for mainframe companies that did ATM systems, we had audit trails. We had all kinds of encryption and connections for ATM systems to validate down to the 10th decimal of a penny, you know, for currency exchange, electronic funds transfer. But that was all owned by banks, right? We just did the processing. Now, like I said, you have all of these folks. You and I could open a digital bank, you know, and create NFTs for podcasts and things. So it's a wild, wild west. But I think the concept is good, but I don't want people to fall into bankruptcy or, you know, commit suicide because they feel like they failed. You already hear stories about people's Bitcoins disappearing. And
Oh my
now that I'm
God.
retired, I'm saying, gee, I'm glad I didn't do that, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can tell you that even though I am talking and I care about NFT and Bitcoins, all those cool stuff, but I haven't really buy anything. Yeah, I mean, I just create some NFTs, just testing out the water, but I didn't really jump in as fanatic. You know, like I'm not crazy about
I
putting
think,
actual money in.
yeah, it's one thing to create it. It's another thing to buy somebody else's and bet the farm on it. You know,
Yeah.
like I said, if I spent all of my grocery money buying, like we're looking at a digital watch, an NFT, that digital watch, and my,
Yes.
you know, my $200 a week groceries money went to that. I'd have to explain that to my husband when the table and the cupboards are bare, you know.
Yeah, like on
But
the kitchen table, you just put this watch, right?
but on the other hand, if someone were to create a new food product that's very nutritional, you know, that that grows organically here in Santa Cruz, there's a lot of farming stuff, and I bought their NFTs to help their business, you know, their ads and promote. You know, I would feel better doing that, and then I would then buy their service. You know, I help them build their digital farm for advertising in the metaverse. But physically, they would send to my porch every week, you know, fresh tomatoes or something, you know, new healthier food. So I think it's a tag team, a yin and a yang on the physical world versus the meta world. But like the web, I wanted to get it out of casinos and porn and use it for good business purposes. So I'm hoping that the metaverse won't just be fun and games for Mark Zuckerberg, but serious business for small entrepreneurs like yourself and me to really enjoy the fruits of our labors and create different kind of business models that we didn't have before.
Yeah, I mean, yes, something similar to this, Yahoo Finance. The title of it is NFT Watches May Offer Interactive in the Metaverse and Blockchain. 3D Jesus owner. So pretty much, this guy is the one who create a lot of NFT watches, and he himself kind of, create all those like really really cool 3D watches, and he said that he loves all of them because those are very creative. I think he changed the name, kind of, Rolex, but his brand is Rolex. So right now he has so many, digital watches, and it's how much is that let's take a look. Wow, oh wow, $17,000 for this watch, right? Think about that. So at the beginning, he was creating this, and his concept is that because people who love buying watch are those who are really into details. So because of this this concept, so he creates all his watches, kind of like make sure all the details of his 3D model is very, very detailed. So you can see, and he kind of create different colors according to different hands. So um, yeah, his work, he's like a little NFT shop in OpenSea is roaring, right? You can see like a lot of very cool watches he created, and with all the different hands and different details. So this is kind of something that he is doing right now. However, some people do suggest him, or he is already kind of trying to produce the real watch according to his 3D concept as NFT. So his goal is to do that. If you buy this NFT, right, and there will be a watch sent to you, a real watch. So I think this is kind of a really, really good. I would say right now it seems like the little, video clips or the NFT becomes the sales, kind of like I feel like it's more like, oh, you look at this, right? And you
Well,
like to buy this. And later
he's
on, you
doing
will get a real product sent to your home. So yeah, I feel like that that makes sense and make people even want to buy it more. Yeah, not just digital, movie clip, but if later on they can create the exact cool watch according to the design, I would say, yeah, maybe I will buy one, right? Yeah. What do you think?
well, $17,000. I would rather have something I could show off than just have to show you on my laptop or my phone. But this is the model that I was talking about, like the food service,
Mm,
where you create
yeah.
a market,
Mm,
you create interests.
mm,
He obviously is very good at what he's doing because
mm.
somebody's paying 17,000 for this
Yeah.
digital design.
Yeah.
But again, the he's gotten a market share and a
Mm,
branding,
mm,
so therefore he could go to Cartier or some Rolex and
mm,
or some other, even start up a new
mm,
watch company,
mm.
and say, I'll license my designs to you and you make the real watches, or you make do the
Yeah. And
and
pair
put it
up
in
with this.
and
Yeah.
put it in the dealerships that you already have, the retail stores, the airport, what they call those at the airport, the no tax
Mm,
depots, what those are called, where the people, the jet setters go that would buy, $100,000 watch. And
mm,
also I look at the long term, the vintage. He wants to
mm,
make them exclusive.
mm,
So like the old vintage Rolex or Timex,
mm,
oh Jesus, I just remembered Intel
mm,
created a chromatic watch with a
mm,
chip
mm,
back in the late 70s, but we
mm,
didn't have a distribution. We couldn't sell it. We didn't
mm,
know how. So
mm,
they had it for a year and then they killed it.
Mm.
But the old watch, it's huge, okay, but it was
Wow.
very advanced. Those suckers sell for $1,000, $2,000. And I remember I tried to give them away when people would buy chip orders because we didn't we couldn't sell them, but now they're worth something because they're vintage, you know. So
Yeah.
it's a funny story about watches and jewelry. You know, I myself
Yeah.
have probably 10 or 12 watches and I don't even wear half of them.
Oh,
But
yeah. I personally like, Apple Watch. I mean, it's kind of like $400, $300, right?
well,
For one.
I
Yeah.
have fancy ones with golds and diamonds, and I'm
Oh,
actually
yeah, yeah, yeah.
afraid to wear them because I have grandkids, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I
and
wear this. Yeah.
they scratch my clothes, so you know they're too fancy. So I'm
Yeah.
like you, I like a one that has apps in it, you know, so that's the one I wear.
Yeah.
But this
I
guy,
yeah.
he's got something. We have to give him kudos for the business model. But
Yeah.
again, it points back to my theory that you have to somewhere cross the line into the physical world and then have a monetary, real dollars and cents, you know, real coin, not digital coin, to back that up so that it will last, you know, into the future.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, if something happens to just the digital world,
Mm.
everyone would be doing what he's doing, and that dilutes the value, you know.
Yeah, I do think this is a very smart way of doing it. Using NFT as a marketing way of selling actual product. That's something that I can accept because I still couldn't imagine that, hey, this movie clips is 25K. It's just a little bit too much. And to be honest with you, I can even, I don't know, grab it or,
Well,
screen record it, right?
I don't know with this digital watch if you can even use it as a food timer, you know. Does it have any
Yeah,
function?
can I even, yeah, there's no function,
Do I still
right?
have to
It's,
use my Alexa to tell me when my eggs are cooked? You know, I just
yeah.
feel like if you're going to buy a $17,000 NFT, I want it to do something. You know, I want it to talk to me or something,
Yeah,
make some noise.
so I do think that later on, if he can, figure out the way to manufacture his amazing 3D art, then yeah, if you buy one and you can get, maybe same material, use gold, right? Because I would say 25K, if the entire watch was made of gold, I think it should be fine, right? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I know gold is roaring right now. The price is roaring right now. Yeah, so it's very interesting to see that people start using NFT as the way of doing the marketing and probably pre-order, right? Because he needs money to, manufacture it. So maybe NFT can be the way of pre-ordering some stuff, right? And yeah, I personally really love this types of idea. Maybe, yeah, this will be the new types of marketing that NFT thumbnails will be, people pre-order something, and once the owner get the money and they can start producing something. So I think, yeah, this is a pretty cool way of looking at the new business model. Yeah, okay. So another one is, oh yeah, so yeah, I look up DAO and I really think this is a very interesting way. So the definition of DAO is basically a group of people who have some sort of more formal ownership over something that they are working on. So a really good example is from gaming world that a lot of ecosystem has actually borrowed from this kind of like ways of doing things. So pretty much, players will come together and they are working towards some sort of shared goals or some shared value they create together. So yeah, so this is definitely like in more like a public ownership, right? And to be honest with you, this is probably the second time that I see DAO, this types of concept. So yeah, so I would say something it's kind of start changing things right now. So yeah, what do you think about the new concept like a DAO or yeah.
Like I said, it reminds me of the old internet days when
Mm.
we were looking at what else you could do with technology. And even when I worked with Intel in the 70s, we created chips, but it's like a chip is dumb until you get
Yeah.
applications and you can have factories to produce. I used to take back orders all the time. We couldn't deliver. I would take a 6 month and even a year back orders for 8080 Intel chips. They were so popular, but
Yeah.
we had to work very hard on the branding and position and working with other tech companies to build that business. So to me, this is what's old is new. The only caution I have in the metaverse is that we could create like the .com bubble where there's so much crap going on that everything implodes.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping if you do have a good reliable business model and you do have serious community, that it will survive, right?
Yeah, right.
Also, I think young people who don't have retired pensions like me, or don't
I
have
don't think in
big
this
stocks
world
in
right now,
Google, right?
no,
It's
we
like the
don't
big
have
tech
pension.
companies, that you work for, you consider you a contractor, so you don't get the wealth that they do. And I think that's
No.
why they're trillion-dollar companies. I can't remember the fellow, he's Brazilian, who sold his company to Adobe. And he said, I will only do the deal with you if you let me do NFTs for creators. And that has actually been a boon, especially in the gaming world, because now you can buy the digital assets, and Adobe's promoting it, and Epic, Unreal, and Unity, and everybody else is along those games, along those lines, so that artists can, own their creativeness. It's not like you just give it to Adobe and you get nothing, So I feel that the young people and people that are doing, reinventing themselves, seniors like myself, we're living longer. We're looking for ways to create and new technology and get paid without having to, go to work, live in San Francisco, etc. So I can sit here in my little beach house and create content with you or my other friends for health and wellness, and build a metaverse, a little wellness clinic or something, or some sort of advice. And also I call it more of an infotainment, is that people are crossing the creativity and the fun of games into the business and the everyday life. And so if you can use that kind of creativity with multimodal, and I always have a mantra that the metaverse should not be a silent movie. As much as I love all of the 3D animation stuff that you're teaching me, I always say, well, this is cool, but to me, there's no human interaction. So I'm trying to build a voice component to really bring it to the masses, to then, have it in multiple languages so people can understand your art and appreciate it and put their voiceovers and their music and their interactions with it. So it'll be a great journey. And that's why it's cool to work with you and the other people in your group to make this kind of stuff happen. I don't want to work for Facebook. I don't think they own the metaverse or Meta. and that's my thing. So you started the conversation about decentralization, and because banking has been decentralized, healthcare is being decentralized, there's no reason why the metaverse shouldn't be decentralized also.
Yeah. And before you mentioned that AI, right? Like the voice, you want to implement some voice. And today there's another news called, it's in TechCrunch.com. And the title is, in Metaverse, responsible AI must be a priority. Okay, so in this article, it talks about AI because, for example, I have an avatar and you have an avatar, and you speak Spanish and I speak Chinese, right? Let's say that. And how can we communicate successfully? And it will bring the AI start, translate. But as for translation, it's a little hard because for language, there are a lot of different tones or different expressions, and how AI can also translate all those expressions without having bias, right? We all know that, for example, like in this article, it talks about, we've seen how AI can create gender bias. For example, AI will give larger credit card limits to men than women, right? So if everything is being, kind of automated by AI, or, we give AI a lot of power to, translate the language between humans, or, to kind of doing a lot of things that, that we kind of want them to kind of govern or, control, instead of human, centralized, a certain human. And I would say this is a very interesting topic, because the bias whoever program AI can give its commanding or validation access, right? So the standard, for example, if all the male engineer, right, kind of create the AI, then it will favor a certain type of gender, race, right? A certain type of group of people. And so how can we kind of eliminate those bias by implement the AI? I think it's a very important thing for the metaverse. Yeah. So any thoughts?
Yeah. When I first got into healthcare, and we had the textbooks, we didn't have so many online classes and all that. I had a friend who was a Harvard doctor and gave me books about women's drugs, that birth control and things like that in the 60s and 70s, but none of those drugs were ever tested on women. They were tested on young men, 20-year-olds, medical students. So you didn't really know when you're giving a woman birth control pills, and they were FDA approved back then, right when the FDA was getting started. They didn't, I think, really get it, is that a lot of medicine was created but never tested and cleared for that physiology, so there's definitely a bias. Here I'm gonna make a drug, and I go, why is this happening? Why don't we change this? So it took many years, but now we have specialized healthcare for women, and we have clinical trials, and we have a lot of animal studies to find out what is the truth in the physiology, and what medications are safe. So now I kind of take that thought into the language models that I'm building for voice AI. And the same thing, I'm already running into conflicts when I have my smart avatar, my conversational avatar. She wants to talk about heart, but then when I get her to talk about cancer, she gets confused, or gets kind of, the developers and myself, we kind of made a garden for cardiac, for heart.
Oh, cardiac. Yeah, because usually people won't say that cardiac, right?
Yeah, well, that's the health term. Even though you say heart,
you will translate to
we say cardiac, cardiology, all of the fuzzy terms, so whatever you blurt out, it still relates to that, okay? Because we have to look at the medical records, then we tag that. But then you build another garden for oncology. But what happens when you have a patient that has heart problems and then gets cancer? You have
it's true, right? Because there are so many combination of disease, and people who got one disease, usually it's the combination of them make them really sick.
Right. There is no perfect specimen. We are not iPhones, so you can't build a healthcare model for one thing.
And so everyone is different.
Right. So I tried to work, with IBM Watson and some of these other things, and frankly, we couldn't do it. There was
Wow.
too much that couldn't be done.
Combination.
And now
Yeah.
IBM is not doing healthcare because it's a bitch. Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing I like is that since 2000, when I
Mm,
worked in cancer,
mm,
I worked for one university and big healthcare center here in the Bay Area, but
mm,
we never really communicated
mm,
with our research with other big oncology health centers. We didn't
mm,
have the technology or the business models. Everything was siloed. But
mm,
then the government stepped in, the NIH and all this, and said, if you want to get funding from us, you all have to be in the same
yeah.
sandbox and put all your data together and
Mm,
build better models for
mm,
oncology research. So the same thing has to apply here for AI. We are
yeah.
using AI for healthcare, but it's going to take time. You
Yeah.
can't just expect a robot to give you a diagnosis and say, you have cancer, you don't, because I got fuzzy answers on your cardiac thing. I did not compute and just
Yeah.
overlook certain things.
Mm,
And but we do have, like I said, now more access,
mm,
and you can actually, what we do is we have user studies
mm,
where the A/B testing, where people actually go in and give voice samples or do transactions to
mm,
help identify the bias. Maybe
mm,
I don't understand your question, or I don't understand your tone of voice, or you
mm.
have a dialect that is hard to
Yeah. Right.
define, and
Mm,
therefore you get wrong answers or you get no answers. So there's
yeah.
still a lot of work to be done, but I think in time, just like we did with oncology, it gets better.
Mm,
But you can't just stop. You have to keep working. It's like, I call it the never ending story.
mm,
Doing health research is a never ending story.
yeah.
uh, and this AI is a perfect example of that. I do like the fact that we can use AI to
Mm,
look through all the publications,
yeah.
translate research from Japan
Yeah.
or Germany, and
Mm,
incorporate that into our clinical studies. So I
yeah.
never had that power before, and
Yeah.
it's expensive. It's not cheap, but
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. I really think that's opens up so much more opportunity, and also addressing health
Mm,
issues around the
yeah.
world, not
Mm.
just US only, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that human and machine, especially human, has more complicated, I would say, emotion, right? Or for different languages, there are, I don't know, sarcasm, right? Or some different tones or different contexts. It might have different meanings. And AI, if when they translate and if they kind of mistranslate or something, then it might change the meanings, right? So I think for this part is a very interesting part. It's related to linguist, right? And also the psychology. So yeah, and human machine interface. So yeah, it's very interesting to explore and make sure that the AI can really help us not really create a lot of problems inside the metaverse. Yeah, cool. So I think our time is around the end. Yeah, thank you, ET, for joining me today. And yeah, hopefully see you next week.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.